Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. The contract between Ford and Unifor members is set to expire at midnight, with the union saying at this hour both sides remain far apart. We take you live to the plant tonight, and the old Windsor jail on Brock Street is up for sale again, but this time with a much different price tag, and historical Boblo Island is getting a massive makeover. We have those details later in the show. Thousands of auto workers in Ontario will be in legal strike position at midnight. The union says talks are progressing, but both sides still remain far apart. Those watching the negotiations say strike action on the American side of the border add a new dynamic. The CBC's Chris Ensing is outside the Ford plant. Chris, what's the latest information we have now, just hours before that contract is set to expire?
Yeah, Meg, really pressing Unifor and our sources to get a full understanding of what's happening here. There's been a big shift in these two negotiations. UAW has been very much negotiating through the media. Unifor has been locked down with a lid on things, but here's how it stands right now. In Michigan, striking workers mark day 4 of job action against the Detroit Three. In Ontario, solidarity for Unifor's bargaining committee looking to secure a deal for thousands of auto workers at Ford.
Today is the day that if you want a deal on both sides, you are cramming in a lot of work and a lot of effort if, in fact, the company wants a deal and, of course, if the union wants a deal.
Ken Loenza Sr. has been in these bargaining rooms before. He hammered out deals with Chrysler and GM during the financial crisis in 2008.
You know, there was a lot of uncertainty in the industry. The market share was shrinking. They were losing lots of money, and workers made significant sacrifices. I know because I was the president of the union.
In the United States and Canada, a push to get those concessions back.
You know, we still have a long way to go, and that's going to be up to the companies on, how this plays out.
The UAW says it wants a 36% wage increase over 4 years, a 4-day work week, and the end of tiered wages, where new hires start at lower salaries than tenured workers. Unifor is not getting into details about what it wants for workers, only outlining priorities. Those include better pensions, higher wages, job security, and more investment. Last week, they said 2 offers from Ford were rejected, with only incremental movements on pensions. Today, they told members at Ford to, quote, prepare for all scenarios, including strike action. Tonight at midnight, what do you think happens?
Well, my gut would tell me that if there's consultation going on with the UAW, there may be an extension in Canada. Because if we go down tonight, this Ford engine plant right here will close down multiple plants in the United States. So I don't think it would make a lot of sense, quite frankly, for us to go out on strike, close down plants that could potentially be down by themselves within the next week or 2 weeks or the next couple days. So I'm hoping that there's a strategy that both of them are using the power of a potential strike to advance each other's objectives.
Such unique circumstances right now with those negotiations happening on both sides of the border. We have heard from the head of the Parts Manufacturing Association for Canada that says the strike in the United States has companies here on this side of the border adjusting their schedules to try and meet the demands, or lack thereof, of companies in the United States because of the strike action being taken. They say a prolonged strike could mean in this country where would be temporary layoffs at those parts manufacturers. And Meg, just to break it down, the contracts for Stellantis and General Motors have been extended while Unifor negotiates with Ford. So it's only Ford that is in that strike position tonight.
Well, we'll absolutely be watching there for details. Thanks so much for that, Chris. That's the CBC's Chris Ensing reporting live. Well, the Nathaniel Veltman trial continues today here in Windsor. He was accused of killing several members of a Muslim family in London when he allegedly drove into them with a vehicle. Today, the jury continued watching video footage of an interview between Veltman and a London police detective. It was taken the morning after the family was run over. The accused is seen shivering in the interrogation room. 22-year-old Veltman tells the detective he doesn't have anyone close to him. He says if he did, he might not have run over the family because he would have had something to lose. Crown prosecutors allege Veltman was motivated by far-right ideology and nationalism. The old Windsor jail in Sandwich Town is up for sale again, but the price tag on it has gone way up. The current owners bought it at auction from the province in 2019 for $150,000. They're now asking $1.4 million. As Dale Molnar reports, community leaders want the jail's future use to benefit the area.
The 98-year-old jail has sat pretty much untouched since it was sold in 2019. A real estate agent for the current owners says they didn't do any renovations due to restrictions under the Sandwich Heritage Conservation District. She also says they want to divest themselves of some properties they own. However, she says the parking lot next to Mackenzie Hall, which is part of the jail property, is not for sale. Ward 2 Councillor Fabio Costante would like to see the city own it.
Like I said, it's a very important parking lot, not just for the patrons of Mackenzie Hall, but for the business district here in Sandwich and for residents that live in these areas.
Costante also would like to see something positive done with the structure, which also includes a registry office.
You know, hopefully the successful proponent, whoever does purchase this property, does something for the jail to activate it again and make it a good community use.
The chair of the BIA feels the same way.
We are in need of parking, housing, any commercial space, anything that could add to the community. The residents of Sandwich we're pretty reasonable. So anything that will create a clean, safe space for the community.
These residents live nearby. They are tired of seeing the vandalism it attracts and also want to see something done with it.
I've been here for almost 20 years. Living close to the jail to watch it degrade as time went by. And usually if you do something with properties initially, you don't get the criminal activity in there.
Meanwhile, Windsor West MPP Lisa Gretzky is critical of how the Ford government disposed of the jail in the first place. Ford's Conservative government sold it for pennies in 2019 without any community input, and it seems like they didn't put any guardrails in place to ensure that it was redeveloped with the community in mind, stated Gretzky in an email to CBC. The manager of real estate services for the city says the owners would have to sever the parking lot next to Mackenzie Hall from the jail property if they intend to keep it. The city is currently leasing the parking lot from the owners for an undisclosed sum. The lease expires next May. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
One of our region's islands is getting a makeover. Bois Blanc Island, better known as Boblo Island, is being marketed as a place for luxury real estate. The CBC's TJ Deere has more.
While some upmarket homes on the northern part of Bois Blanc Island, better known as Boblo Island, are up for sale, many of them already have homeowners. Whereas on the southern part, all that's there are empty lots. Amico Infrastructures, the island's property developer, says they're hoping to sell the lots and build houses on them. Amico is also planning to build a nature reserve in the middle of the island. Once all of that's done, they plan to turn the island into a resort-style residential community.
We're designing some pickleball and tennis courts right beside the ferry landing on the island. We also have a marina that operates on the other side of the island, and we're currently finalizing plans for a new restaurant.
But a new build won't come cheap. The lowest estimate for a new house built by Amico on an empty lot is $1.5 million. Prince says because of the private nature of the island and all of the future amenities, it's likely that affordable housing will never be available.
Amico does, however, have other lands in Amherstburg that it is providing affordable housing on those lands.
One of the more popular uses of the island was when the Boblo Island amusement park was running. Attractions included a carousel, a Ferris wheel, and yes, a roller coaster. 35 years later, all that's left is the old dance hall, the theater building, and an old washroom building. Prince says Amico will be reusing the buildings as part of the island's makeover. They just don't know how yet.
We've carved those out and protecting them, and we're hoping that we'll be able to find an adaptive reuse for those buildings so that they can continue to be an important part of this community.
Lots of people who already live on the island say they enjoy living there.
It's kind of like an exclusive community, like a gated community because you have the ferry, very safe, great water view, a lot of wildlife.
Even a resident on the mainland likes what Amico is doing, especially as outside residents can just spend the day there if they want.
I think that would be great for our community. It would give us something more to do, and it would bring more establishments to our community.
Amico held an open house in a show home this weekend so visitors could get a sense of what the new builds would look like. Although the open house was aimed at prospective buyers who live elsewhere, many of the people who showed up were island residents, interested in getting a peek at the home their future neighbors would be living in. Prince says they're hoping to fill up all the units and lots that are up for sale. Open houses will be held in this townhouse unit until Christmas. TJ Deere, CBC News, Bois Blanc Island.
A local winery owner is hoping to cash in on a private member's bill that will be introduced in the fall. The bill looks at eliminating a 6% basic tax on on-site wine retail sales. The owner of Cooper's Hog Vineyard says a lot of wineries are barely scraping by and have been hit with more and more tax increases over the years. If passed, he says this bill would be a helpful break.
The relief of this tax would allow a little bit more margin to be made by the wine companies. I mean, we're still absorbing the federal excise tax, which was brought in a year and a half ago, and that's kind of costly. So it would help out tremendously on, even though it's not huge dollars, it's 6% of the net sale price of a bottle of wine, but it really adds up.
Breaking news earlier today, Canadian security officials say there is credible evidence that the government of India may have been involved in the killing of a Canadian citizen. Hardeep Singh Nijjar was shot to death outside a Sikh temple in Surrey, BC on June 18th. The Prime Minister addressed the matter in Parliament today.
Any involvement of a foreign government in the killing of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil is an unacceptable violation of our sovereignty. It is contrary to the fundamental rules by which free, open, and democratic societies conduct themselves. As you would expect, we've been working closely and coordinating with our allies on this very serious matter.
45-year-old Nijjar was an activist campaigning for an independent Sikh homeland. He was shot by two gunmen as he sat in his truck in the temple parking lot. His death sparked outrage in the Sikh community and triggered a number of protests around the world. Canada's opposition leaders expressed his condolences to the Nijjar family, and he's calling on India to cooperate with the investigation.
Canadians deserve to be protected on Canadian soil. We call on the Indian government to act with utmost transparency as authorities investigate this murder, because the truth must come out. We must know who performed the assassination and who was behind the assassination.
It is now an important time to send a clear message. As a democratic country, as a country that respects the rule of law, what will be our response? I want people to know that as leader of the New Democratic Party, I will use every tool at my disposal to ensure that Canada uses every tool and every power of a democratic nation to bring those responsible to justice.
If you're looking to renew your passport or get a new one, the place you're probably used to going is shut down until further notice. Service Canada says the Windsor Passport Office on Olette Avenue and Riverside Drive is closed. Officials say it's out of the government's control. No other details have been released to explain the sudden closure other than the building was undergoing maintenance. There are no details on how long it will last. Anyone looking to renew a passport or obtain a new one can go to the Service Canada location at Windsor City Hall. Ontario public elementary school teachers are voting on a strike mandate. Teachers in different regions will vote on different days through mid-October. The Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario says bargaining with the province is going at a slow pace, and it's rejected a government proposal to leave any outstanding issues to be decided by an arbitrator. Other teachers' unions in the province are also bargaining for a new contract. A historic day for women's hockey in this country, with the brand new Professional Women's Hockey League set to start its first season in January. Today was the inaugural draft. CBC's Greg Ross was there.
This is an incredible moment.
Tennis legend and advocate for women's sports Billie Jean King had the honor of announcing the first overall pick in the PWHL draft.
With the first overall pick in the inaugural Professional Women's Hockey League draft, Minnesota selects Taylor Heisey.
American-born Taylor Heisey is selected by her hometown team. She says the last few days have been a whirlwind, but she's doing her best to savor the moment.
I try to take in every moment. I wrote down what I did, the days I did it, just to make sure that I remember this for the rest of my life. It's obviously an inaugural thing. It's a history.
Toronto picked second, and they took a familiar face in Canadian women's hockey, Jocelyn Larocque, who has been playing hockey in the GTA for the past decade.
It's everything that I was hoping for. I would have been happy with any team, but this is the team that I was hoping to get picked by.
Hi, how are you?
The Professional Women's Hockey League is made up of 6 teams. In addition to Toronto and Minnesota, there are franchises in Montreal, Ottawa, New York, and Boston.
It's a day that's going to inspire so many more people to get involved, so many young girls.
Former women's hockey player Jana Hefford is the Senior Vice President of Hockey Operations for the PWHL. She's been a part of other attempts to create professional women's hockey leagues, like the now defunct Canadian Women's Hockey League.
This is different because we have an ownership group that comes with the capital, the resources, the experience to run a professional league. We have the best players in the world. We've never seen more demand for women's sport around the world.
Canadian hockey star Sarah Nurse signed as a free agent with the Toronto franchise. She says having an official draft is also new to women's hockey.
Previously, how women's hockey would work was you basically played where you lived. You played where you worked, you played where it was convenient for you.
The puck will drop on the first PWHL games in January. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
It's mid-September now, and we're still seeing those nice warm temperatures and lots of sun. We'll get you your weather forecast coming up. A grocery store in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador has hired a foodie who roams the aisles interacting with customers, offering recipe tips. But the foodie is, well, a little different than you might expect. Take a look.
It's a fun thing that customers look forward to, especially the kids. They love running after it. Customers just having like a little bit of fun and chuckle down the aisle. Just something for a little bit more interactive for them to see. On its belly, you can see how the products are being made and some recipe ideas and just some general details. And it winks at you. See, it's greeting us right now.
Because it stays a little bit more stateside and kind of pushes southward, so we get into the drier air. We will pick up some cloud cover, however, from some of these systems, so do be aware of that. The overnight lows, there are single digits to be found. I think we'll be in the range of 9 to about 11 degrees for the overnight low. Chatham, Kent, London, a little bit cooler through there. And then looking at that 5-day forecast, The reason I feel pretty good about this is not only tomorrow, Tuesday, are we at 22, but I think you can see our overnight lows above seasonal, because we started looking at those at the beginning of the show, and same thing with the daytime highs. We're not talking about 20 or 21. We're seeing actually things building as we go towards Friday and Saturday. And not only that, but this ridge of high pressure means we'll have quite a bit of sunshine once we get past those slim little bits of chances of some glancing showers. We really get into some dry and sunny conditions as we finish off summer, and then, of course, fall coming in officially on Saturday.
Well, thanks so much for that, Colette.
You're welcome.
Coming up, an interesting race you won't want to miss.
Windsor.